I want you to imagine that you're riding in the passenger seat of a car, going about 40 miles an hour. Out of the corner of your eye, you see the grass moving next to the road. Suddenly, a deer jumps out in front of the car. The driver hits the brakes and swerves to the left, screeching to a halt, narrowly missing a deer. What's holding you from slamming into the door or the dashboard? It's not a trick question. Your seatbelt is. Today, I'm going to tell you about your body's internal seatbelt. This seatbelt can be applied to whatever active hobby you enjoy. It can be anything: hiking, fishing, skiing, horseback riding. So sit for a moment and think about what you love to do. And consider these questions. Have you ever stopped doing your activity because of pain? Have you ever cut back on doing something you love for fear of getting hurt? And last, have you ever shied away from an opportunity to participate because you didn't want to embarrass yourself? I see this a lot as a physical therapist. If you answered yes to any of those questions, you're in luck, because I am about to show you how this internal seatbelt is a life hack that can help you decrease pain, improve performance, and reduce injury risk. I'd like to use my example, horseback riding, to show you this. Helping horseback riders find their internal seatbelt is what lights me up, and I hope that in this next story you see why. I came from pretty humble horseback riding beginnings. My first horse was $400 from the classified ads in the newspaper. That's less than most dogs cost. I got my toes dipped into competition by entering my first Western pleasure show. I won a 5th place ribbon. There were only 5 of us in the class. I realized that I didn't really like going slow in Western pleasure, so I decided to try out speed offense. I quickly learned that this was much more my style. I loved to go fast, and so did my little horse. My childhood dream was born: to become a professional barrel racer. Fast forward 20 years, and I finally had my shot. I had the horse to do it. But then I found out the hard way why a horseback rider might need an internal seatbelt. You see, quarter horses can reach speeds of up to 45 miles an hour in just a few seconds. They can come to a stop just as quickly, similar to the car screeching to a halt to avoid the deer. They're bred to be incredible sprinting athletes, and that requires us to be athletes to stay on top of them. I know it looks like I'm having fun in this photo, but this picture is like when they take your picture at the amusement park just as the roller coaster drops into the abyss and you don't quite know if you're going to make it out alive. That's how I felt in this moment, realizing that my back was seriously injured. I had shattered my L1 vertebrae. My fractured spine was what was visible on the x-ray, but really what it broke was my heart. Childhood dream, out the window. I'm up here today because I don't want another horseback rider to go through that, or worse. My horseback riding accident could have been prevented if I had developed my internal core. If my example didn't convince you that horseback riding is dangerous, consider this. On average, a horseback rider is hurt every 350 hours. A motorcyclist is hurt every 7,000 hours. In terms of number of admissions and severity of injuries, horseback riding is more dangerous than football, hockey, lacrosse, and rugby. And last, over a 10-year span of research, 45% of sports-related traumatic brain injuries were from horseback riding. Now, helmets are an essential part of this prevention piece, but protective equipment alone is not enough. So what can we do about it? Strength training is the solution. Building muscle is something that anyone can do at any age. As a PT, I've learned that outdoor hobbyists typically fall into one of these 3 categories: beginner, recreational, or competitor. No matter which category you fall into, having strong muscles in your core and in your back is important because it makes up this internal seatbelt that I've been talking about. These are screenshots from Anatomage, a portable computer that we have here at Montana Western. It contains life-size cadaver images similar to an MRI. What you can see here is that there are many layers to your core. Each screenshot reveals a deeper layer in your body. These muscles protect everything from your hips to your rib cage, and they also protect your body during rotation. I'm going to give you 3 exercises today to strengthen these muscles. So I know you've all been sitting for about an hour or so feel free to get up out of your seat and try these out in the aisles. I've learned that if I don't give my exercises a funny name, then my patients forget about them, and they don't do them. So that leads me to the beginner and the dying bug. Beginner riders are at a 5 times higher risk of getting injured than an advanced rider. You can do this exercise to promote muscle strength, stability, and muscle endurance. Research shows that expert riders ride with a more upright body position and they move their trunk less in the saddle. A lot of instructors say they just need more butt in the saddle time. And it's true, you need to ride a lot of horses to become a good rider. But I'm also here to challenge that belief. What if the novice rider simply doesn't know how to activate a certain muscle group? What if they could learn the sport of horseback riding more efficiently and more effectively if they were training those same muscles on the ground? Here's an example of a transformation a beginner could have by regularly doing these exercises. Before, the rider is tipped forward and balancing on the reins. After, the rider is sitting up straight on the horse. Nearly any fitness level could perform these exercises to tighten their seatbelt and improve their ability to stay centered on a horse. The dead bug exercise can be done anywhere, even during a TED Talk. No horse needed, and the student can get hundreds of repetitions before they ever step foot on a horse. So why are we asking our beginner riders to prepare their bodies through strength training before they ride horses? The next group is the recreational riders. This is the group that I see most often in the physical therapy clinic. They typically sit at desk jobs and they may commute for work. They largely enjoy their hobbies on the weekends. Because they're not training or riding during the week, their bodies are not up to the demand placed on them in the weekend. They're at a higher risk of musculoskeletal injury and back pain. In fact, the prevalence of back pain in horseback riders is 81%. Why? Well, if you look here at the spine, you can see that the lumbar spine, the low back, is kinematically less stable than the rest of the spine. It doesn't attach to the ribs, and it carries the entire weight of our entire body. The highlighted vertebrae, the one with the green line going through it, is the one that I broke. Can you see here how if I had had my muscles developed, like in the first picture, I may not have shattered my vertebrae? The bird dog exercise is an exercise that activates your back muscles. Our muscles are what control the low back, and that's why we need these muscles to be strong to protect this area. This exercise activates the deep stabilizers, the multifidi, that are required to stabilize the spine during riding. Here's an example of a transformation that can be possible for a rider in this category. The first picture, a rider with weak back muscles is slouched. With strong back muscles, she's sitting up straight in the saddle. I'd like to tell you a story about a woman named Julie who benefited from core strengthening. Julie drives a lot for work and she sits at a desk job. She wanted to work on her strength and have fun trail riding. She was feeling as though her posture was suffering. Julie started strengthening and had significant improvements in her core strength and her leg strength. This came in handy one day when her horse, normally a low-key, well-behaved horse, decided to buck. Julie stayed on. At 62 years old, if Julie hadn't been strength training, she could have come off and broken a hip, suffered a head injury, or worse. My question again, why aren't we begging our friends, family, and loved ones to build up these riding muscles to prevent an injury, just like we'd ask them to put on a seatbelt in our car? Let's switch gears from injury prevention to success, because some of you out here may be looking to get that edge over your competition. And if you ride in the Montana circuit, please plug your ears so you don't beat me this summer. My final exercise, fire hydrants. Just like a dog peeing on a fire hydrant, you lift your leg out to the side without letting your trunk rotate. In this example, I'm doing it with my knee off of the ground, which adds a slight increase in challenge. This exercise challenges your deep core back, and hip muscles. I want to tell you another story. This is about a woman named Christy, a competitive barrel racer in her 40s. Christy went from being off-centered and bouncing in her saddle to being centered and secure on her powerful horse. Core strengthening, among other strength training exercises, allowed her to better resist the torque that her powerful horse was applying to her body. It also allowed her horse to run faster. After strengthening, Christy was competing at the top level of barrel racing. Her timing and balance were spot on. Think back to the deer and car example. When that car hits the brakes, your seatbelt is resisting a lot of force to prevent you from flying forward into the dashboard. When Christy is turning around the barrel, her inner core is resisting a lot of force to keep her centered on her horse. The research is clear that strength training improves reaction time. A recent study looked at the change in reaction time after core strengthening for just 2 weeks. The study found that after 2 weeks of strengthening, reaction time of the transverse abdominis, multifidi, and internal obliques were significantly improved. Think back to the anatomage photos. Those are the muscles that were tested, the same ones that make up the deep inner core that is vital to horseback riders. Having a strong core allows you to give your horse clear cues. It's the foundation for your arms and legs being able to react lightning quick. In a sport that's won and lost by hundredths of a second, this is a big deal. I'm sure you're sensing a theme here, but why aren't we asking our equestrian athletes to compete better and experience more success by maximizing their strength and agility? After I broke my back, I was, at one point in time, each of these 3 riders: the beginner, the recreational, and the competitor. But after fastening my seatbelt through core strengthening, I came back a better rider than before my injury. My reaction time was better, my balance was better, and I had more fun. Now, I'm living out my childhood dream of being a professional barrel racer. I'm physically safer and less likely to come off because my core muscles can react quickly to keep me centered. I go into riding and competing confidently, knowing that I've prepared myself and my horse for the task at hand. So maybe you're not a horseback rider. Maybe you don't even have an active hobby. But life, everything in life, gets easier when you're strong. Picking your children up off of the ground, walking up the stairs, having more energy at the end of the day. I'd like to leave you with this. In 1980, the seatbelt use rate was 11%. Over 40 years, that improved to 91%, and currently 15,000 lives are saved every year with seatbelts. Personally, I don't remember a time when seatbelts weren't widely used. I want to look back in 40 years and see that same cultural shift happen for my son with horseback riding. If strength training can prevent even one of the 100,000 yearly riding injuries, then this talk has done its job. I hope you don't stop doing what you love because of pain, fear, or embarrassment. But if you have stopped, let this be your sign of hope that you can get back at it with core strengthening. So let's spread this idea to our kids, family, and friends to keep them safe on horses and enjoying riding for years to come. I've shown you the science. Now it's up to you to take action and get solid in the saddle.